Welcome to the final block of the development phase for the adult program. This is the last phase and it's the last time we're going to do these sets and reps, so we're going to move on to a more power development phase in the next one. So for the last block, I'd like you to repeat some of the exercises, and some exercises are new, but now it's all sort of loaded, so make sure you can load at home, and if you can't load at home, again, we're going to show you ways and methods to get some adaptation without maybe dumbbells or barbells if you have them. But if you do have them, please utilize them and obviously lift appropriately to what you can achieve. Well, yeah, we'll talk about the first exercise first, which is a loaded squat, and there are variations to the loaded squat. So again, we're just loading up a nice pattern. A squat is a good pattern to load. Just make sure you are doing it efficiently and effectively. But that might mean is chest is up, you're sitting back onto your heels, you're not losing balance, and you have something behind you that's quite safe. So first one is body weight, and we would say if you don't have weight, obviously this is going to be your setup. You may have a bench behind you, and use tempo, use the resistance of gravity as your friend here to try and drive adaptation. So sitting back to the heels, the weight should go from the midfoot to the heels, chest is looking forward, and you're remaining upright. So sitting back on towards that, so like a 4 count down is appropriate, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up on a 1. So there's an option. Again, if you feel that you can come away from the bench, that's more preferable for me. If you can just sit down and use your own sort of, your muscles and your structures to try and decelerate all that motion going down and generate force coming up, that's far better. But if you have to use a bench, okay. So variations with weight. Then you've seen these before, but a goblet squat, again, bench or without bench. Chest is up, the bar. It's important here that the weight is close to the chest, so really push it in, because you don't want to have that center of mass too far out in front of you. Again, setting back into it. Again, use the bench when you can, or if you can get away from the bench, that's even better. Now it's 8 repetitions in this as well, so make sure you have something that you can do 8 reps consistently. You don't want to kind of go half and half. You want to keep that rhythm up. And then the final one then is a front squat. So again, bars or load close to the shoulders here, elbows up, and sitting down into it. It's the same pattern again as a squat, it's just a different way of loading it. And again, you do 8 repetitions. Again, you can use the bench again for security if you want that. Now you've got weight, so now you've got heavier upper body, so you want to have to counterbalance that, so maybe you need a little bench behind you. If not, this is obviously the more advanced version of the lift, and do 8 repetitions. So we're on the final phase of the strength block, so try and up the weight a little bit. Obviously be safe with it, so maybe a 5% increase on what you were doing before is kind of a nice guideline, or 10% being the max kind of thing. But yeah, go a little bit progressive here now that you're back to training. So it's good to have that strength adaptation in the body. Okay, the next one is we're going to go step ups, and again, I'd like this to be loaded. If not loaded, again, the option is to do it more tempo based, so slow contraction up. But there's a few ways to do step-ups, and I see step-ups being done in very, very different ways. We're going to talk you through the way we'd like you to do it and the reason why that is. So you step onto a box. Now the box height here is very important. If you just step on there 1 second, Sandra. So make sure the thigh line isn't too high. So imagine if it's breaking parallel, like Sandra's shown here. That's probably too high. We don't need it that high. 90 degrees is where we'd like, but lower is better than higher, if you like. So on here now, the starting position is really important, so make sure your full foot is on it, so the heel is not off the box. And what I want you to do is shift your body weight slightly onto the side that's up, so just a little lateral shift left or right, and then push off that floor. We don't want you to do a knee drive at the top, so we don't want you to come up to the top and do this, because what that'll do is generate more force on the left foot. The left foot's going to work more than the right foot, so the right foot's on the box, and then to drive momentum, you'll start not getting as much muscle contraction on that right side as you would if you do a knee drive, because the momentum starts playing into it. Now it's just all about the force generated by the right side to get yourself up onto the box, and that's what we want to generate. We're now the fact that it's loaded. Yeah, and it's a nice safe one. You don't have to worry about balance on the when you come up, and you have to control all that momentum. Now it's pure strength adaptation, and we're getting the benefit. Sandra's going to show from the front as well. So you step onto the box, make sure the full foot is on, and it's only a subtle shift to the right, and then push off. We just basically don't want contribution of the bottom foot pushing off like almost like a calf raise on the bottom to drive you up. We want the right side to be the force driver on the way up. Here as well, just look forward as well, so keep your chest upright, so keep everything looking forward, chest high. You stay tall, you don't bound forward, you don't have your spine rotated, you just have it looking forward, not overextended obviously, but just looking forward and then driving up on that side. Again, 8 reps on each side here, load it if you can. Okay, so there are your first two exercises, and now we're going to go on to two posterior chain exercises. So it's a loaded single leg glute bridge. Okay, so if you don't have weight at home, I mean, you can load it any way you want. Anything relatively heavy, that's okay for you to sit on your hips. Put it on your hips and try this motion. So set up like we've done a single leg glute bridge before. Set up like this. So if you have a dumbbell that sits nicely, you can put a towel underneath you if it's a little bit heavy or sore on the hips or something to just soften the contact on the bony structures. And then get into this nice position here. You can see the bottom foot where it's close to the glute, even a little bit out more, a little bit out from the glute. Yeah, so in that sort of position, the other leg is upright, and then you're going to drive up, all the way up, hold for a second, and then back down again. Some of the common mistakes here is overextending the spine, so you could overarch the lower back. You don't really want that. You just want to come up and get the hip fully flexed. So fully extended. So fully extend the hip that's been loaded. So on this instance, it's the left side, the non-leg that's up, or the leg that isn't up. And again, you're going to do 8 sides. And just do it for the screen here. Just see what it looks like on the other side. So same thing again, just fully extend that right side all the way up, pushing down through the heel of the foot, holding for a second at the top, and then lowering the weight back down slowly. Good. Okay, that's your first posterior chain exercise, so it means behind the legs, so the hamstrings and glutes. And the next one is RDL here. Now, so it's kind of a technical lift, but you're at the lateral stages of the development phase. So try this at home. Just a few things to note here is set up in a nice sort of a neutral stance. So hips are just slightly wider than hip width apart, so you got a good base support. You got your dumbbells or a barbell, whatever you have, or even cartons of milk with water in them to load it up, and just let the weights lower down in contact with the body, right? So they're never going out in front, but staying close with the body. The knees are slightly bent, and here you've got a good contraction through the thoracic spine here as well. So you don't want to arch forward, you don't want to be fully extended back, you just want a bit of activation through the back, and then you're sliding down the weight along the line of the body, along the line of the shins, thigh into shin. And the range here, everyone's going to be slightly different. It's going to depend on the mobility of the hamstrings and the mobility of the hamstrings under a bit of load. So some people will be able to get very low to the floor, some people might get past the knee, some people might get towards the knee. The idea will be here is try and get good length as long as you have good technique. Okay, so if you start getting to the floor but then you round it through your shoulders, you've probably gone too far. So keep that contracted through here, so it's a good nice spinal position. Your knees are slightly bent, perfect position, so that's a good range for Sandra there. But if you have to go a little bit less because your technique goes, then that's the position. You're going to be defined here by the competence of your technique as to how far you go. But try and go as almost far as you can without losing technique, because then you load the hamstrings to a full range of motion. And then the last two then, so we always do the power exercises. The first one is a lateral jump squat. So you've done jump squats with me before, jump lunges I should say. So jump lunges moving down the track, right? So you're going to do into a jump lunge. So like a normal jump lunge, but this time there's movement laterally, okay? Yeah, so you do 3 each side. So still getting height, still getting good height. 3 each side left and 3 each side right. Now, it's a bit more of a challenge to keep your control, because when you're doing jumping up and down, the forces are just going up and down, it's easy to absorb. Now you've got forces going laterally as well, and you've got to absorb those. And as you're driving laterally, it's going to demand of the hip and the foot and the ankle and the knee to generate forces and absorb forces laterally too, which is you're biasing sort of one leg as you're going left or as you're going right. And it's a lot harder, as you can see, to just do normal jumps up and down. But it is challenging that movement, and the movement is going to be challenged now that you're back fully training and with your team. And games are coming very soon, so you're going to have to challenge your movement in a more controlled environment and get that movement out, because what happens in here is definitely going to happen on the pitch. So it's better to get control here, and hopefully when you're on the pitch, you're more controlled also. So it's the lateral jump lunges. Again, you do 3 each side, but 6 going one way and 6 going the other way. Okay, good stuff. That's it. And now if you are really struggling with that, if you feel like your balance is kind of all over the place, just do it on the spot and then build up slowly. You might just do one lateral jump and then rest and then do another. So it's all about, as I said from the very start, like competency and good movement patterns are far better than just loading up something that you should load up. As long as there's competency in the movement, then you can challenge yourself on the movement, but make sure there is competency first. Okay, the next one then is our moving counter movement jump, right? So you know what counter movement jump is. So the important point here is hip extension, really. That's the biggest thing. You make sure your hip extends and you're not staying in flexion. Like this will be staying in flexion. I'm never fully extending my hips, so I'm never contributing enough of my glutes and my hamstrings. So make sure you are fully extending through the hips on each jump. So we'll show you what it looks like. Down, jump up in the air, good. Jump up in the air, good. That's it. Get some height, always getting height, always getting height. Not worrying too much about contact time here, but if you are progressive and this is really, really easy for you, minimize the contact in between. So you do 5 jumps, or 6 jumps, sorry, in a row with minimum contact on the floor, if you're able to do it. But stop and rest in between. So that's a good contact time here. So there's a little bit of contact, there's a little bit of quick actions, there's good control. That's good. Now she can challenge that movement going a little bit faster because she's already got good technique and the hips are coming through. But if you start going faster and then you're remaining in flexion, that's not going to get benefit. Yes, you are doing it faster, but the mechanics of the movement is actually hindering your performance because you're not getting full hip extension. So hip extension is number 1, and then load it with speed and contractions and contact time if you feel confident. And that's the end of the development phase. You will see in the next videos when they start releasing, we'll progress these things into more quick actions, more powerful stuff, because you've had a good series of loading. So yeah, so at home, make sure you're competent, number 1. Make sure you get the key critical factors of each lift done, and then load them up as where you can, whether that be with speed or whether that be with some load at home. I hope you enjoy it. That's the last block of this phase. Hope you enjoy. Keep training home, stay consistent, and keep it up even though you're back training now with your teams.